Okay, so we're back again. I'm hanging out with Jolly. We're doing this is season 2 of the Steve Walter Photo Podcast, Talkin Topics. And today's topic of what we're going to be talking about is, I guess you'd call it the future of photography, but more specifically, mirrorless cameras. Photokina is still current. No, it's ended. It was all last week.
Yep.
And there were a whole bunch of announcements. There's a whole bunch of new stuff. And we're going to talk about some of it, a little bit of it. I think we'll there's probably a couple things that we'll focus on, pun intended, definitely intended on a photography podcast. But before we dive into that stuff, I'm going to give an early shout out to my Patreon sponsors, Steve Walter Photo /Patreon. If you wanted to help support the podcast, I greatly appreciate those that are doing this. Mel, John, Mike, Dan, Ken, and Scott. Thank you guys so much for helping out. If you're throwing me a couple bucks, it greatly is appreciated because it helps support this, mainly the RSS feed that delivers these podcasts. You know, they charge me, so it's nice to be able to know that you guys are helping support that because you enjoy the content. Moving right along, we got my man Jolly.
What's up?
Shout out to what's your Instagram again, dude?
Jolly Tracey, JOLLYTRACEY.
And the website's the same.
Yep.
So if you guys listened last week, you heard us talking about likes and Instagram and the idea of removing likes and followers. What would that do? So if you haven't listened to that episode, go dial back a little bit and you'll find that there. And then all of season 1 is still available. And I'm probably going to have Jolly come on back for season 1. And you might be like, wait, Steve, we're doing season 2. How are we going to do season 1? Well, I can do what I want. This is my podcast.
It's your podcast.
Yeah, I do what I want. So definitely check out all the other content that's there. So, Jolly, let's first just establish what cameras you shoot with. I know that this doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I just want to put that out there. But I feel, no, you know what? Let's not. Because hold on. Mm-hmm. Let's not say what cameras we shoot with. People probably know. But if anything, let's have the conversation about the cameras. And then at the end, we could say what we shoot with. Because I wouldn't want people to be like, oh, well, this
that's why he's saying this, because he shoots with this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that shit, man, it's like a Ford Chevy thing, man. It's always going to be there, and I get it, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Let's just I want to 100% first establish that gear doesn't matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But with that, let's talk about a bunch of gear.
Yeah.
So, mirrorless, right? Mm-hmm. Mirrorless has been around for a while. Mirrorless is when you think about point and shoot cameras. I mean, those are mirrorless cameras. They're not labeled mirrorless cameras,
but they're mirrorless. Yeah.
But they're mirrorless, right? So anything that doesn't have a mirror and a pentaprism is a mirrorless camera, right? Mm-hmm. So this kind of came about in, I don't even know what year. I probably should have done some research. I'm just going to guess 10 years ago-ish.
That sounds accurate. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Micro Four Thirds started coming onto the scene. That was
Olympus,
Panasonic.
Yep. Samsung, I think too.
Samsung.
Yeah.
I think Sony might have even had. Again, no, not thinking about point and shoots.
Sony definitely had a few mirrorless, but not thinking about point and shoots.
Not thinking about point and shoots. Right. Thinking more about this sort of, I guess, call it SLR style body, right? That doesn't have a mirror in it. And without diving into all of these specifics, like, well, Steve, why do we need the mirror? Why don't we want the mirror? Well, you don't want the mirror because now there's this additional element that is in front of your lens, right? In front of your sensor, that's going to give you more technological advancements, right? Just things where you're getting direct contact to a sensor from the light coming in through the lens.
Straight to the sensor.
Straight onto the sensor, and then into an electronic viewfinder, or not, just onto the back of an LCD, right? So that you can there's nothing in your way, right? So you have direct contact to the thing that you are looking at versus having to bounce it off of a mirror, through a pentaprism, through a viewfinder.
Through the viewfinder,
right?
Yeah.
So, mirrorless cameras, dude. There were big announcements. What cameras do you want to talk about?
Right now, I don't think they were announced on Photokina Day.
No.
But before Photokina. The Nikon and the Canon.
The Nikon. Let's talk about the Nikon, the Z series.
The Z series.
And the Canon EOS R series, right? So you're right. They announced them before
Photokina.
Photokina. And I'm sure that's because
and then
they want to
displayed
have
their own thing.
they want to have control over the media outlets. They invite people to these events. As we talked about on the last episode, they invite influencers.
Yep.
Right? They say, hey, you got a lot of followers. Your demographic is exactly what we
need.
And let's talk about that for a second, because this is an exact point where the target audience is what Nikon and Canon wants.
Yeah.
People follow your shows and your information because they are photographers and videographers,
and they pretty much want to hear what you have to say.
They want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to hear that you say buy this. They want to just hear what you have to say
about the camera.
And you want it to be quote unquote honest. And I'm sure you watched a whole bunch of those, as I did too, where you're watching all these people talk about these cameras and you sit and you think to yourself and you're like, did they get paid? Did they not get paid? And they say, we didn't get paid. Yet you were flown out to Hawaii. You got a dope hotel. You hung out for the week. You were getting food and drinks. So you got paid.
You got paid pretty much.
But you didn't get paid in cash.
Yeah. It's like, hey, shit, if I would
fly me to Hawaii. And I'm going to feel amazing. And you want to know what? I'm going to be like, yo, this is a cool camera.
And you know what?
Maybe. I don't know.
You're persuaded. No. You are in the back of your mind. You're persuaded to say something good. Because why? You want when the next camera comes out. You want them to invite you again.
Of course you do.
Yep.
You want to say just enough bad things to be like, well, they could have worked on this and they could have improved on this.
They could have added the extra memory card, but everything is great.
So, all right. So hold on. With that said, so also everyone listening, we're probably going to be going all over the place with this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because I know I will be. You might be
definitely.
Too. Dual card slots. That was the big no.
Yeah.
Like why? Okay, mirrorless camera. Here's the future, right? The two big guys, Canon, Nikon. They have currently in their cameras, they have dual card slots. I use dual card slots.
Yep.
It's great.
Nikon, even for some of their quote unquote entry level,
consumer level DSLRs,
dual card slots.
Have dual card slots.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dive into all the specifics of that, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you want it, it's there, and they didn't include that. So that was something where it was like, you guys are so late to the game, and you didn't do that.
What pisses me off too is that they said that they're gonna be ahead of the game because they've waited this long. And they've waited this long, and they saw the mistakes, because Sony came out. They only had one card slot too.
Right, their original mirrorless cameras, and Sony is the big player. They are like the ones that you're trying to chase.
Yeah, and everyone was like, "No professional will buy this.
Right,
it's only one. No real photographer would buy this. It's only one card slot. When you have a big gig, this, that, and now." You're coming out and you're like, okay, we're targeting the A7 and the A7R3.
Right.
And you drop a camera. And it's almost to the point where I think people's minds were like, holy shit, all right, they're doing this. They waited this long. They can't come out with something mediocre.
You have to at least match, if not exceed.
Yeah.
You have to.
It's like everyone was expecting at least matched.
At least matched.
And it's almost to the point where I think if all the other specs were crazy, people would have still been like, well, you only have one card slot.
You only have, and I think that's overshadowed a lot. And it might be sad because, look, I don't know. There's ways that you could work around that. But me personally, as a professional photographer, I am way more comfortable knowing that I have an immediate backup of my content. Yep. Now, there's so many arguments you make. XQX or QXD are more reliable, blah, 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 blah. And people say, well, medium formats only have, old school medium formats only have one. And you're telling me you're blah, blah. When you shoot tether to a computer, it only saves one copy, blah, blah. Yeah, but you're making a backup. Like, there's all these other things you can make. Hey, Canon, Nikon, people want two card slots. Give them 2 card slots.
And it goes back to another thing where people were saying, you know what? You know why I like Sony? You know why I like Fujifilm? You know why I like all they listen.
They listen to their consumers.
It's like, especially Fujifilm, I have such a respect for Fujifilm to the point.
Agreed.
Never been heard of, especially a new camera came out and it's cheaper than what the camera before it was when it was
predecessor.
New.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Higher specs. Only camera.
You're talking the XT3?
Yep.
Versus the XT2. Yep. Fuji's, yeah.
Only crop sensor, I think, to do 4K 60.
Yeah.
And do 10-bit internally.
Yeah.
even the Nikon and the Canon full frame,
Yeah.
the mirrorless big dogs supposedly that
Right.
should have dropped can't do 4K 10-bit internally. Can't do 10-bit internally. Have to have external
recorder for that. Yeah. And look, without going too deep into all that stuff, right? But I mean, it's a valid point because those are specs that you're looking at, right? There are, and as I learn more and more, there are things like something like a crop sensor is going to be able to do that easier because of the nature of a crop sensor versus something that's larger. They have to then focus it towards the middle so that it's not over processing to then
cost and all that
stuff, and then overheating, like all these things that come into it. But with all that said, it's like, we know you can work around that technology. We know it's possible because of things like Magic Lantern.
I don't know.
So this is way off on a slight tangent, but Canon cameras, you can't. Have you heard of the term jailbreak?
Yeah.
So you know how you can jailbreak an iPhone?
Well, you could unlock all these other features.
You can unlock all these features
blah, blah, blah.
of the hardware and with new software or firmware on a Canon camera, and you can do all of these things, and they intentionally don't, because I get it. They're protecting their product. Apple does the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Android, you could do all these crazy cool things, but then maybe you mess up your phone and it overheats and it crashes all the time. And Apple's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it safe and reliable. So you could do these things.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
But with that said, you know, the specifications, again, they should have at least matched what the market had through Sony, who is the sort of leader at this point. And I mean, we didn't say Fuji before, but Fuji is up there, man. They're crushing
and Fuji
it.
has such a great point on what their thing is. It's like now 10 years ago it was a big deal, crop sensor versus full frame, but now it's to the point where it almost doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Especially with Fujifilm and how they're making their lenses. The depth of field, the blur that you get in the background, it really doesn't matter because they're making 1.2 lenses.
Yeah.
Which equates to like a 1.4.
Yeah.
On full frame. So it's like, okay, you want that full frame look? Get the 1.2 lenses.
Yeah, you can get it, right? You can have a nice looking image with a crop sensor. Like there's not a problem with, I mean, it's, you know, not so cropped, but an APS-C
definitely could handle, especially when it comes to
APS-H, right?
Especially when it comes to low light nowadays. Like the I know the Nikon D500 does ISO 10,000 like it's nothing.
Yeah,
like on video, I saw this video on YouTube, ISO 10,000, straight out the camera. Almost couldn't see any grain.
And that's where, like, again, we're talking about, this is kind of future of photography, right? And mirrorless cameras is the future. So that's why that's our kind of overarching topic. But it's the processing of these images, right? Hey, I captured an image. Well, what do I do with it now? I've got a dual digit, or I've got this kind of processor in my camera. What can I do with that raw data to make it look better? That's, to me, the future. Combine that with things like artificial intelligence, computational photography, all of those things put together are what's going to make photography in the future better and better.
And even the hardware too, because now with mirrorless, the flange distance is really short.
Yes. So
there's not this big thing in the middle that's like from the light enters the camera, has to go through this, then hit the sensor. Nikon says that because their flange distance is so short, the light doesn't dance around as much inside the body.
Less chromatic aberration.
As soon as it gets in, bam, on the sensor.
Right.
So now, I don't know if you know about T-stops. You know T-stops? So now the T-stop is more accurate. Where you'd have a 1.8 lens, but the T-stop's f2.
Right. The actual measurement of the amount of light coming in
is going to be close.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, now my 1.8 is actually letting in 1.8 light.
Right, because there is something to be said that, like, if you buy a lens that's a 1.4, not all 1.4 lenses are going to give you a 1.4 quote-unquote light. Actual T-stop measurement of that light. I know Sigma is definitely known for that, right? Like, hey, it's a 1.4, but it's really like a 1.8 or it's an f2. And so that's going to improve, right?
Yeah, it's going to improve a lot, which means, quote-unquote, better low light, because now you're letting more light onto the sensor.
You're just getting more light in.
Yeah. Overall. And pair that up with the fact that the sensor is that close with now Nikon and Canon's bigger mount, which means even more light.
Bigger mount, wider lenses, wider rear element.
Yep.
All of that stuff.
All of that stuff.
So back to those two, right? Because they're the ones that made... Everyone was waiting. Arguably, everyone was waiting for their announcements, right? Fuji made some stuff. Actually, Fuji's got those medium formats. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's stay on this Canon Nikon for a moment, and then we can dance around the others too. Because I want to definitely talk about that Fuji. So Nikon dealt all their cards. Yeah. Canon didn't. Canon dealt one card. So Nikon came out with two bodies, right? The Z6, the Z7. The kind of lower megapixel, higher megapixel. Call it call it the sports and commercial, and maybe call it the low light. And I'm not sure exactly.
Video, low light and video, maybe.
It's weird how that those two are there, like as far as like how you define what the camera, quote unquote, should be used for. Whereas DSLRs, it seemed to be a lot easier to do that. And because of the shutter because of the mirror. How fast could the mirror go?
Especially with Nikon, because now I feel like Nikon, because they've been shit at video pretty much. Yeah. Shit at video. I don't know what it was.
Interestingly enough, though, they were the first ones to do it in a DSLR with the D90, I think it was.
And it was like, oh, okay.
I remember Nikon, Chase Jarvis did that. Yeah, that was his thing.
And now they have mirrorless, and their mirrorless cameras are way better at autofocus. Yeah. But to me, personally, none of these cameras are video dedicated. So I feel like the only thing left for Nikon right now is to have a video dedicated. Video. Yeah. But as you said, when it comes to photos, they dealt all their cards. They have the low. And it's funny because they're now saying we're working on the pro mirrorless.
Which is why would you be working on a pro mirrorless when you just announced your first entry into mirrorless? And that's what. And so the reason why I bring that up is because I think that Canon might be doing that. Yeah. I think what they did
come out with two memory cards.
And we should say that Nikon they made their announcement first, and then Canon made theirs. So I gotta think that one of the dudes at Canon was like, whoa, nope, we're only announcing one. They're like, no, but we have two cameras. Nope, we're doing one.
We're waiting
because of what Nikon did. Everyone's saying two cards. Everyone's saying blah 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 blah. They dealt their cards and said, here's our lineup for the next at least year. 18 months. Yeah. You gotta think. I'm guessing. And it's not to say it was a bad offering, right? I mean, from what the specs say, it's good looking, right? It's not bad. But I do think that Canon introduced things that were slightly more interesting. Yeah. Again, both of them still did a single card slot. I would have loved to have seen a double card slot. Just we already said that. I'm not going to bring it up again.
With Canon, I feel like bodies aside, the lenses were better.
Oh, they definitely had a better lens lineup.
This is another thing that pissed
Nikon's
me off.
lens lineup was not great,
that pissed me off with Nikon. It's like, okay, we all know you couldn't make 1.2s because
they said they're going to be doing it
because your the mount was so old. It was big. Now you make this big ass mount, and
they're all 1/8.
Where's the glass?
It says 29. I think the chart said 2019. For a manual, it was a manual focus 51.2.
No one's gonna buy that.
No one's gonna buy that.
No one's gonna buy that.
Especially.
And then Canon comes out and it's like, okay,
we're gonna make another 51.2.
Forget.
Here's our second dope version.
Forget 2.8. We're gonna make a 28 to 72 f2. We don't care if you don't buy it. It's expensive as shit. We don't give it. Buy it if you want.
But now we can say we're the industry first.
Exactly.
Just like what Sigma did with the 1.8, right? They had their that was a crop lens, but they have the first zoom 1.8.
1.8,
which is dope, and people love that lens. Dude, that for people that are using crop bodies, that's how you get that blurry background, man. It's a 1.8.
Use a 1.8, so it's equivalent to like a f2.2 on full frame,
right?
Which is,
that's great.
It's blurry as hell. Like,
if that doesn't work for you, I don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
If that's not enough for you,
they made the 18 to 35, then a 50 to 100.
Yeah.
At 1.8, come on.
Sigma's crushing it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Sigma too, because they came out with. So they announced a body that's coming out, or they actually announced a whole partnership with Leica, Panasonic. Yeah. So we'll put that aside, but let's stay on this. So the reason why I said that I thought Canon's offerings were more interesting, right? What Nikon did was, so let's just say, that they almost matched.
Yeah.
They didn't quite match, but they almost matched. They were pretty close to matching. I would almost say the same for Canon. I know I said I wasn't going to bring up the card slot again, but keeping that aside, I think let's just pretend both of those cameras had dual card slots. Let's pretend, okay? I would say Nikon matched. Mm-hmm. Maybe the lens thing maybe didn't quite, but matched.
Yep.
I think Canon exceeded. And for two thoughts. One, the lenses, sure. Yeah. Their initial offering for new lenses are beautiful.
Way.
But then also their adapters. They offered 3 adapters, and they didn't just say, cool, we're going to take the EF and mount it to the R. They said, no, we're going to take the EF and mount it to R. There's one. We're going to take the EF mounted to R, and here's some filters. And then here's the control ring.
They're going to take the EF to the R with the control. So even the basic of basic adapters has.
My understanding is there were 3. There's one that is just a conversion. There's your cheap one. Then there's one with a ring, and then there's one with the filters. Dude, that is cool, man. Someone said, hey, let's not just do an adapter. Let's make a reason for people to buy this other one.
And now you technically kind of get rid of an expense pretty much, because now you do video, filters? You only need one size.
Dude, one of the things I talk about all the time, because I shoot some video, is when you go into like cinema cameras, they have built-in NDs. And that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't it be cool if we could? Well, now we can.
Yep.
With a graduated ND, you roll a little dial, and then now I can shoot at 2.8 in bright sunlight. And that to me is innovative.
Innovative, yeah.
Right.
It's like thinking beyond, okay, people are going to want to use their old lenses. Let's just make this thing.
Here, let's just make this work.
Yeah. Instead, now you're like, okay,
what else can we do?
Work. What else?
What's next? What's beyond that? Mm-hmm. So there's forward thinking there. And then on top of that, the control ring itself,
overall,
on the lenses and on the adapter, that's interesting, man. So now I have another point of
and
control.
It's good because, like, let's say they didn't come out with the controlling on the adapters. It would be like, okay, they're forcing us to buy the new lenses to get the control ring. No.
Right. No.
Throw your old lenses on.
Boom. Control ring.
Yep.
Control ring. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if I'm doing it, I'm going to want to buy those new lenses. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I? Mm-hmm. And then the little touch bar on the back. And I know I'm calling it a touch bar. I'm not sure what the technical term is.
I don't know what it is either.
But it's like a touch pad. So it's something that you can just slide your finger on, your thumb ideally, right? Because it's on the back of the camera. Yep. You would slide it left and right, I assume. I don't know if you can maybe do an up and down, but it's customizable to now control different parts of how the camera works.
And people are saying it's going to be hard, but over time you're going to get used to it.
Dude, you're going to get used to it. Everyone said the home button. Oh, you took away the home button. I can't use my phone. Dude, it took me 2 minutes to get used to it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's not there. You're going to be dumb if you press that.
Right. You adapt.
Exactly. Swipe up.
So that to me.
But with this touch bar thing, I feel like it's going to be real. Because as we talked about him in the other video, on other podcasts, Peter McKinnon.
Oh, yeah.
He did a review on it, and he said something really, really interesting. It's like they made it so customizable to the point where just pressing it once does something.
Yeah.
But then sliding does another.
Oh.
So it's 2 arrows. So you could press this and it does one thing.
Right.
But then if you do this, it does another.
Right.
And then if you do this and hold, it
can do something else.
Keeps doing that one thing. So what he had his setup to is
interesting
ISO.
Okay.
So when he's doing video, he likes to have
auto ISO.
Not auto ISO, but he likes to control his ISO in a way where he doesn't shoot below 200 ISO.
Okay. And
he doesn't shoot above 800.
Okay.
So he's like, okay, let's say you're doing street photography and you like your settings, f8, 125 shutter speed.
Right.
You leave from outside in the bright and you want to go and you go into a dark alley. Boom, ISO 800.
You just tap on it and there's ISO 800.
ISO 800.
Right. If I know that those are the settings that I use. Or even if it's just at an event, like, and so I have access to custom controls on my camera now, and I'll be honest, I don't use them that much. But the idea of having something that I can tap very quickly
and go to something and something happens is
that I like the idea of that. Yeah. I like the fact that, again, that it seems that they were forward thinking. They didn't just say, okay, we're going to just take our old 5D4 and make it mirrorless.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing too with that, was they kept the body the same size. It's a big body.
I like that.
I love that. That's what I want, man. I want a chunky body.
That's what I kept thinking about too. I'm like, okay, I know people want that small mirrorless body. Some people want, but leave that for future body styles.
Yeah.
Like how Fuji does, even though all Fuji cameras are small, but they have the XH1 that's like more a bigger body. And then they have like the X100 where it's like, hey, put this in your pocket.
Right. This is your walk around.
This is your walk around. You can't take the lens off. Right. That's what I believe any mirrorless that has interchangeable lenses should just be big enough to fit your pinky.
Yeah.
Like.
Agreed. Yeah. I shot with the, what was it? The Canon M6, which is like their mirrorless. So Canon has, and so did Nikon. They both had mirrorless. Nikon's mirrorless didn't go anywhere. They discontinued it.
Yeah.
Canon's mirrorless is okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And that I immediately didn't like it because where's my pinky going? So I didn't like that. I think they did the M50 that was a little bit bigger, but still not. But even that, keep that small and that's fine.
Keep that small and that's fine.
If I have a full frame
if you're
camera,
saying
I want it big.
This is what you're going to use for work. This is what you're going to use to create the images that you might get paid for, the images that you want the highest quality from.
Right.
Which needs to be paired with good glass.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get sharp, lenses mean a lot.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And
more than the body, I think.
Yeah, and the better the lenses get, the bigger they are. We haven't reached that level of physics and engineering where we could have a 1.2 lens that's this small.
Super tiny.
We haven't reached that yet. So
I want a big body that'll counterbalance a big lens.
Exactly. I'm tired of putting on my grip when I need to shoot,
right?
For a long period of time. Because now, if I shoot long periods of time without the grip, my pinky's all,
can't do it.
Exactly. So
that I think was nice that they did that. I think Nikon's was pretty big, but I don't think it was as big as their.
I actually held the Nikon, and it's it's funny because I went to Milford Photos to drop off some film, and they had a Nikon rep there.
They got the
with the Z7.
Oh, get out of here!
Yeah,
that's dope.
And
nice.
I went there. We put the Nikon 105-14 on it, and the 7200. Everything works perfect.
Yeah.
From what took us outside. We were shooting like cars flying by and all of that.
Yeah, cool. So it feels okay.
When I held it, I was like, damn, this makes me want to shoot with this thing, And
that should be, and the reason why I stress on that is because that to me was one of the things that I tell people. When people ask us inevitably, right, we're photographers, so people are like, what camera should I buy? Yeah. Cool. I will tell people, either shoot the things that your friends are shooting with because you can borrow their gear, or shoot what feels comfortable. Because if you pick up a camera and it's not comfortable, you're not going to use it.
You're not going to use it.
Pick up one that's very comfortable in your hand. And I like the camera that I have now. It's very comfortable in my hand. So the ability to have a big grip, I think, is important. Versus the Sony stuff, I handhold that, and I don't like it at all.
I tell people all the time, it's like, don't. It's good, but if I had to change one thing about Sony,
give them a bigger body.
Just make the body bigger.
And I think they did with the A9.
The A9
is a little bit bigger.
The A9 and the AR
and the AR3.
AR3 is a little bit bigger, but
not like bigger like Canon, Nikon.
And another thing is, don't just make it bigger. Make it bigger, not just to fit my pinky, but make that grip deep.
Yeah, let me really hold it.
I don't give a crap about the size. Push the grip out so when I grab it, I know I'm grabbing it. You know what I mean?
Right, not just like a little. Right, you're right, because the Sony, it's like you almost have to get it with just like the tips of your fingers.
That's the thing with the Nikon. I wouldn't say it fits your whole. It fits like half your pinky. Your pinky could rest there, but when you dip into the grip, it's like, this is it.
You got it.
You have it.
Right. I'm not going to drop this $2,000 device.
I'll walk around with it, no strap.
Right.
And you know you have it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's hard to do that with the older Sonys.
With the Sony, like, hell no.
I want to make sure I got you like dialed into that. Yeah. So that I think is interesting. So I think as far as, again, assuming they both had dual card slots, I would give it to Canon as far as coming out with. And I think strategically they played the better move of saying, we're going to wait for Nikon to come. And then we're going to, I think, I can only assume that come, 6 months from now, they're going to be like, hey, here's our new EOS R. It's got dual card slots. and that's it. That's all it needs. That's all it needs to then say we won.
We won,
unquote.
pretty much. I feel like Nikon rushed a little bit.
But they needed to. Both of them needed to, man.
But Nikon especially.
They did.
Honestly,
they did.
The D850 saved them a little bit.
Ooh, yeah, that's the camera that people are still talking about.
The D850 saved them, and then I feel like because they had that leeway with the D850, and even though the D850 saved them, I don't think they made as much money as they could with it because it's been on back order for the longest.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's gonna happen with these mirrorless. But I feel like what happens is they said, okay, the D850 is doing good. We don't know what Canon's doing, but we need to drop ours first. Because in our minds, I thought Canon was coming out early next year. And that's what the news was saying. So I thought Nikon was saying...
They had some time to get some sales in.
Exactly.
Right. Hey, we've got this whole holiday season until next year to get some pre-orders because this is us and we're Nikon and people are going to order it.
Yep.
And then Canon was like, "Oh no!"
And as soon as they released it, announced it, all of that, they came out with their little announcement thing, and they were like, "Okay, in this day we're going to Hawaii, blah blah blah."
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, man. And that's look, dude, that's business. And I think what happens is if you gotta wiggle it up and down, it should be good. And that's the nature of the fact that you are two giant companies, and like if you're playing ball, you gotta play ball. You gotta play it, man. And Sony at this point is just been scrambling, and they ate away at the market.
Yep.
And they are dominating it. Especially in the video. I mean, very much so in the photo, but from more of what I've seen as far as video and knowing
low light,
low light for sure, man.
And
they have a background in video too, and so they know like, hey, we know how this works.
And I just feel like because they've been making sensors for so long, it's like they had people say, they're a tech company. Yeah. That's why their cameras ergonomically suck.
Right. And the software.
And the software, but
they know how to make hardware.
Everything else,
components.
Sensor's good. It's going to have the specs. So it was at the point where I feel like if Nikon and Canon did this 3 years ago, Sony wouldn't be where it was now.
No way.
Because
no way. They didn't take it seriously though.
That's the thing. Because
they didn't.
Think about it. If they came out when Sony had 3 lenses,
right?
No adapters, Sigma wasn't making anything for them.
Yeah.
Tamron wasn't making anything for them. And they came out with one adapter that could adapt all the Nikon lenses and all the Canon lenses. Sony would have been like,
shit, we got nothing.
Nothing.
No, they wouldn't come out with all those G Masters. They wouldn't have done any of that.
They waited till they had the G Master series. Now Sigma has a whole prime series from 24 to 105, 135
for the E-mount.
Yeah. Tamron came out with a 28 to 75 2.8 constant.
Yeah.
That's half the price as the Sony version, and they're going to make a 70 to 200.
Yeah.
And now this is when you decide to come out.
And that's where, right, when you think about that, right, just from a business standpoint, not even from being a photographer. Because I'll be honest, I'm not going to buy, at this point, I'm not buying any of those cameras. I don't need to.
Me neither.
The cameras I have are good.
Good, exactly.
But it's not because I'm not interested in mirrorless. I'm very interested in mirrorless.
Yep.
I remember having a conversation with my dad years ago about him saying, because he's an amateur photographer, and him saying, it's like, they don't need the mirror. I wish they would just get the mirror out of the way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, because we were talking about digital cameras and all that, and it's like, you don't need the mirror anymore. The mirror was a need
just so you could see.
Just so you could see in the direction that the lens was going.
Yep.
That's why the mirror was created. And you don't need that anymore.
If back in the day, rangefinders were even being, like, they were seen as better cameras because, hey, I'm seeing...
there's nothing in my way.
There's nothing in my way.
It's just clear.
And photographers back then were big on 2 eyes. So if you needed
both open.
Yeah. So if you needed to see what's going on in your environment, you could use this eye to open while you're using this eye to look through the rangefinder thingy.
Right.
And why people like to, I mean, of course, like the portrait photographers, commercial photographers, they're going to use the big lenses because they don't really have to move around like that.
Right.
Wedding photographers, they were using the Leicas for 35 mil at least, from what I've been watching on YouTube, and It was way better because there's no mirror. It was always lighter. The camera was lighter. And back then, the lenses weren't shit big, you know?
No.
So no autofocus, none of that. So even back then, people were gravitating to cameras that just
a simpler process. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, a lot of that, I mean, you bring up rangefinder and we could talk about that Fuji, but like it's some of that has all kind of come back. But when you even do think about the fact that something as simple as the exposure simulation in a digital viewfinder, that's helpful. Even and people have talked about it for new photographers, but even myself, like I would love to see that if I go from one area to the other area, sure, I have my meter and I'm very comfortable with my camera and I know I can get it there, but to not to say not guess, but there is some guesswork in some of that.
There's always some guesswork.
And unless I have things metered, I don't know. But if I can rotate a dial and go, oh, that's exactly where I want it.
Yep.
And not only that, but like I get it close and then say, no, you know, I want a third of a stop darker. I know that it will be that way. That to me is interesting. Things like focus peaking, things like the eye focus.
Yeah.
All these things that when you have direct access to the sensor from the lens, you get those things. And yeah, man, I want focus peaking.
I tell people
Why
all the
wouldn't
time,
I want focus peaking?
Yeah, exactly.
Why wouldn't I want to see zebras? Why wouldn't I want to see all of this stuff that's available? But just give it to me.
And it's easier in mirrorless.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because
the tech, that's what I want is the tech.
You'd see what was I gonna say? Like the mirrorless. As simple as seeing how the background's gonna look.
Yeah.
Without pressing a depth of field button.
Right.
It's like yes.
Right.
There's almost no flaw with the EVF. Back then, it was shit.
A couple years ago, they weren't as good.
It was laggy.
And that's actually the big thing that I really didn't like. I remember picking up Sony's to shoot stills. Because normally when I would use older Sony A7 series, I was shooting video. So I didn't experience that. But then when I did some stills with it, I remember it being weird. Like when I would do a half shutter, it would change the exposure. And then it wasn't what I wanted. And I was thrown off by it. And this was just like very quickly. I was handed, here, shoot some stills with this. And then there was a lot of lag, enough for me, I wouldn't say get seasick, but really be disoriented of like, this is not good.
Exactly.
I don't like this experience. But apparently now you could probably attest to it with the Z7 or Z6, whatever you said.
The Z7
it's fast enough.
Fast.
You need a super fast frame rate in that.
And I don't know which brand it was, but one of them have a stupid rate. Like,
oh yeah,
it was like it was like 125 hertz. Like,
I think they even went faster. I think one of them had a 240.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. One of the manufacturers.
One of them. Yeah.
So anyway, they're there now, and so there's almost no reason to not do that.
Yeah.
And it seems clear, at least from apparently, I haven't read them, but the white papers that came out from Canon, and basically disclosing and saying like, they didn't say this. I'm paraphrasing like, yo, we get it. DSLRs are going out.
Yep.
This is the future. This is where we're going to focus our attention.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the next 2-3 years, we'll see some DSLRs eventually. Maybe they'll do one more major 1DX and maybe one more D5 or D6, whatever.
That's
D4.
the only thing. That's the only thing I need to see. If they drop any other DSLR,
yeah,
I'm going to be like, why? Drop a 1DX if you want.
Do your flagship
Drop a
again.
D5
because there is the market for that. Because there's old school guys that are using that stuff.
Not even just old school guys. Like at this point right now, there's no mirrorless that can do what a D5 or a 1DX could do. You can't. You will not. If you have a 1DX and a guy bets you, hey, $2,000, you could throw it over there and it'll be fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Right. It's fine.
You throw it and take the $2,000.
Yeah.
You throw any mirrorless.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like,
no, I don't want to do that.
You're not gonna do that. There's wildlife photographers there's that photographer that are in the conditions where you need something like that. And until
those cameras were built for that.
Yeah, and until they come out with, I don't know, like a rugged mirrorless version, they'll never replace those.
And that's where I'll stand by saying that. Not stand by. I'm just going off of what Canon and Nikon have marketed to say, here is a wildlife and journalist and sports camera, because you're going to be in conditions where your shit's getting beat up. It's getting wet. It's getting dusty. It's getting all these things. So that's why we made this a tank. And then, well, here's another camera that's going to be pretty good, but not as sealed. And then here's consumers, right? both of them have done that. They both have said, here's our flagship. This thing's a monster. That's why it's $7,000.
Yep.
And then, oh, you don't want to spend that much? Here's pretty good. Almost good is enough for a little bit less. So it will be interesting to see as they
What's it called?
Progress and make mirrorless.
Samsung used to do that.
Yeah.
They had like the S7 and the S7 Active.
Oh, okay.
So fully waterproof.
Yeah.
The body itself looks like a case.
Yep.
Like you could throw it anywhere. And I feel like that's where mirrorless is going to go, because there's going to be the high megapixel, the regular megapixel, and the video. Then
and
there
that's
has
the
to
trend
be,
now.
and there has to be a rugged.
Right.
If they want to get rid of DSLR completely, because that's what DSLR have over all the mirrorless right now. Even you could take a 2012 DSLR and it'd probably take a better beating than
yeah, much bigger beating. Just in the way that they've been built. And then I guess the other thought too, right, is that when you think about their current lens lineup, is that they'd still want to probably sell some DSLRs because either I'm not even gonna say A or B. It's just because they have all these lenses that are designed for it, and then now you have to hope that people are going to want to use your adapter. Or what I would do is I would eventually get to a place where I would say, well, I'm not going to buy an old DSLR lens. I'm just going to buy all the new stuff because I'm going to eventually buy new bodies. So I want to make sure that my new bodies are supported by the new lenses. So now I got to sell my old lenses.
What they should focus on right now is
it's
just selling everything.
Just get rid of old inventory.
Christmas time, Black Friday time.
Just get them all out,
man. Discount crazy.
Because arguably the value of that stuff is going to start to go down pretty fast.
It's going to drop a lot.
Yeah.
So get them out while you can and focus on, because from what I'm seeing, the adapter works perfect.
It seems like it's especially for those that, like we were talking about sports wildlife, right? Like they're 600 millimeter, they're 500 millimeter. Like they can't just make one of those for mirrorless.
And
yet.
that's what I'm saying.
That's gonna take a while.
Yeah. So what I tell people all the time, adapters are for lenses you already own.
Right.
You know, as you said, wildlife photographers, all of them. Don't switch.
No,
don't switch to mirrorless.
$30,000 lens. You're not just going to get one of those again.
Stay with the brand. Stay with the DSLR.
Right.
Now, if you shoot portraits and you have all the primes, 24 up to 105, and you switch to mirrorless, buy the adapter and stick with them.
Right. Keep what you have.
It's up to Canon now to say, okay, we're going to get rid of these. Get rid of these bodies that we have in inventory, and we're going to start pushing out lenses like crazy.
Yeah.
Pushing out lenses and new bodies whenever they want to make new bodies. And then they come up with something. Either they come up with a trade-in thing where you could trade it $200 off, whatever. Or it's up to the photographer to just switch, say, okay, I need this native performance.
Right.
I'm going to sell these. And you switch.
Well, and it's up to them to figure out, well, why would I want, if I already have a lens that's good and it's going to work just as good with this, I just have to put on an adapter to compensate the flange distance. Okay, then why? Well, they come out with a 28 to 70 that's an F2.
F2.
That's enough to say, well, I want to sell my 24 to 70.
Yep.
That's enough for someone to say, well, I want the new stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what they have to keep doing.
Sometimes it comes down to just looks. Because these...
Oh yeah, designs. Oh, dude, the Sigma Art series, those are beautiful lenses. Beautiful lenses. I love them.
Like, and just that, even the 51. Look at that 28 to 70 F2. Like, it's that front element is so huge. Like, I know photographers that would just buy that just because, hey, this is the F2
status symbol, baby.
Yeah,
Woo.
And that's what they need to focus on right now. I don't want to see any DSLR bot. I don't want to see a Mark V. I don't want to see a SD2, SD3. No. I want to see, if you're dropping any DSLR, it should be a 1DX or a D5. And as it stands right now, those don't even need to be replaced.
No. Or I could see them replacing consumer DSLRs
like the baby
that are
ones.
Priced lower, that, $400 DSLR that
the baby ones, like the
what is it, SL1 Canon makes,
and
the D3000 series. Yeah, those I get it, man. Those are your crop sensors. Those are good.
Parents that want to shoot soccer games and stuff like that. Whatever you want.
Because you don't want to spend $3,000 on a camera.
Exactly.
On a new mirrorless camera.
Especially now that there's especially with the cameras now, there's not really a budget lens. They might just need a kit lens.
That's it.
And
that's fine.
50 or whatever. Exactly.
So the other thing I want to talk about is in-body stabilization that Nikon did. Canon didn't. They fucked up there. I don't know. I mean, look, you want to sit and talk about stabilization in your lens? Okay, that's cool. But why not double
in the body? Yeah,
like that's the one thing I'm pretty sure it's that Panasonic is touting real hard and saying like we have both.
Yep.
So you want stabilization? Like we have the most stable. You could be running full sprint and get static shots, no problem. Sharp shots. You could be all over the place. And why wouldn't I want
that
5 stops of stabilization, 10 stops of stabilization if the lens has 5 and the body has 5?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I want that?
And you know what's funny? Like, I know that Fujifilm didn't put stabilization in the X-T3 because of the size. They said that they would have had to like...
Right, it's going to make the camera bigger.
Yeah, but Canon's is big enough already.
It's big enough, you can fit it in there.
To fit it in there. And I'm like, Why not?
Why wouldn't you do that? Right. And then again, so then this is where there's always going to be that separation of we are consumers and we have a wish list and there's a business and they need to make money. And as much as you want to be like, oh, Canon's just doing this because they want to make money. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's
all these companies are doing it.
You don't think they're making cameras? I mean, they will tell their ambassador program to tell us that we're making cameras to create passionate images. Yeah, sure, that's cool. No, they want to make millions of dollars.
No, like
that's why.
I tell people all the time. People are like, Sony came because they saw that Nikon and Canon weren't doing justice to the consumer. I'm like, no,
they saw a market.
They saw that, hey, if we do this, it's projected that we could make this amount by
dollar
2018.
Signs. Yeah,
that's why they did it.
Yeah,
if they were going to only break even for 2 years, they would never.
That's why Sigma rebranded.
Yep,
because they were like, we're not selling enough lenses. How do we sell more lenses? Oh, we're gonna make it look different. Art series. Ooh, yeah, cool. Oh, this is for artists. Too. Yeah, Tamron stepped up their game.
Tamron was such a one. They were ugly.
Yeah, they were ugly. They weren't attractive.
2. It was just not up to par with Sigma, and they were like the off-brand competitors, you know?
Yeah. They were third party.
Yeah, and then 1, they switched the look.
Yeah.
And made them super good, and now they're one of the companies that you look to for second, third party,
for sure.
But yeah, Sigma definitely took the name thing seriously. Just once you see that little A on the lens, it's like, okay,
you're like, oh, nice,
sharp,
nice.
It screams sharp.
And I think that's where with these new mirrorless cameras, you have to make sure that has it. And I think, again, Canon did right by making it like, hey, this is a new tech camera. They put this little touch thing on there. Who knows if it's going to last, but it's gimmicky enough, just like with those MacBook Pros. People come in there like, oh, here's this cool piece of tech. Like, this must be the future. Yep. I've used those touch bars. They're fine. It's fine. It's cool. It has function. I'm sure more people use it than me, but I didn't really have any need for it. Yeah, so whatever. But the fact that they did that, it was like, here's the future. We're with it. We get it.
This is where we're going.
And I think they did get it. So I'm excited to see if they come out with something that is an upgrade or a more prosumer.
Canon, as you said, is in a better state right now because
they're in a better place.
They could come out without getting the whole, oh, you're robbing us talk. Nikon in 18 months, I don't care what they drop, they're gonna get the what the hell?
Right.
Because Nikon said, this is it.
This is what you get.
And then they heard the responses and you're like, we're joking. We're coming out with something next year.
Right.
While Canon said, this is what we're starting with. You guys know that there's something else.
Right.
It's like, and that's where Nikon messed up.
Yeah.
They dealt all their cards.
They shouldn't have done that.
Especially,
man.
You'd think that, okay, we're going first. We're gonna drop this and see if Canon says anything. You know?
Right.
That's what I would do. I would
introduce the Z6.
Yep.
And do just the Z6.
And funny enough, I feel like Sony is doing just that because Sony was set to announce at Photokina.
And they held off.
Because
they saw what Canon and Nikon did.
They were like, okay. And I feel like it's not a photo camera. It's the S3, the video version.
Oh,
but I feel like they are just waiting. They're like, okay, now that they dropped this, then I'm thinking by December, January, there's gonna be a Sony.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, for video at least, it's gonna like knock everything out the park.
Yeah. That's interesting, man.
Yeah, because we were so hyped, and we were like, okay, and then
waiting for it, and then just
we heard Nikon did that. What was it? I think it was that video they did.
Yeah.
And
they've been sneaking out these little videos. Yeah,
like, oh,
they
shit.
teased it real hard.
People were like, oh shit, like, and it wasn't a video like, hey, we're making it. It's like, no, this is the camera. The lighting is kind of weird.
We're gonna hide it a little bit. Yep. Yeah, make it mysterious and dramatic.
People were like, oh my god, and
then
the whole talk about, is it gonna be medium format? The mont's way too big.
Oh, right. They're gonna do something bigger.
Yep.
Nope.
Like,
35.
Yeah. And but then I feel like Sony was hearing all this talk, and they're like, what the hell are they doing?
Right.
And they were like, you know what? We don't really need to rush right now. We're gonna hold off.
Take our time. Mm-hmm. And look, man, they made their dent in the market, and they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of people invested in that system. A lot of people switched.
Yep. It was funny enough. This photographer said he thinks that Sony's gonna retire now.
Yeah.
Because
leave on the high note.
Because they did what they needed to do, and I'm like, no, these are the people that think they did it for reasons other than money.
Right.
Like, I don't care. You could be a even nonprofits.
Yeah.
If you're not making money, you're not gonna exist.
Right.
So if you found the cure for cancer, and you decide, okay, I'm going to give it away for free, people are going to look at you like you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, especially if you're a business. If you're a
business, man. That's what it is.
And you found the cure for cancer, there's no way in hell you're going to give that away for free.
No. You want to make money off of it. Arguably, right. I mean, not to use the cancer analogy, but like, hey, how am I going to then create a product A and product B? They're going to be different enough and have a wide enough margin spread that I'm going to target one consumer and the other, and I'm going to be able to make X amount of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Here are my pull-through tactics to make you want to buy this camera over here. I expect you to get this one, maybe not this one, and that's okay. Exactly. We're going to manufacture less of those. Like, all of that stuff's going to come into play for you to then say the bottom line is the bottom line.
Yeah.
I need money so I can make more shit. I want to make more shit,
it's so funny,
so I need more money.
Because people think they don't know how much research goes into this.
Nuts.
And we could say the cameras are subpar or blah 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 blah.
Right.
But the amount of money that went into these are like
a
lot.
I mean, just even again thinking about that little touch bar on the back of that thing.
Come on,
programming that had to have been a nightmare to get it going. And that's not to say that it's going to be flawless when it first comes out. Like,
it probably won't.
But it means that you had to spend millions, and hundreds of millions of dollars getting people to test that thing out, man. And
to keep quiet.
And to keep quiet, right? All of that stuff. So I want to talk about that. We were talking about the rangefinder earlier. So Fuji, I think they were the first. Yeah, they were the first to do a mirrorless medium format with the GFX
50S.
With the 50S, right? Yeah. And that came out a couple years ago. I played with that. I shot with that. Oh. That was cool. But again, electronic viewfinder wasn't there. So that was immediately, I was like, oh, this is quote unquote an affordable medium format camera. Like, this is interesting to me. But then when I held it, the viewfinder just wasn't there. It was just a little bit laggy enough where I felt more comfortable using a DSLR. Yep. But it doesn't mean that it didn't have amazing files.
Yeah.
The test shots that I had with it were freaking great. They were so good. It had the Fuji color science, as everyone raves about. And that's what's interesting to me. So the reason why I bring that up, there was another camera that was announced. Did you see the one that was announced by Zeiss? That has Lightroom built into it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get into it. I want to get to that in a second too.
I read the headline. I was like, what?
Like that to me. All right, so hold on. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent because I already brought it up. To me, cameras today and of the future should basically be what we know and experience and expect from our phones, but with really good optics and a really good sensor. That to me is what a digital camera should be. A mirrorless camera. Because my iPhone is a mirrorless camera. Yeah. Right? It is a mirrorless camera. And it is arguably one of the best mirrorless cameras, any phone, right? Because
with that
of all the software. The fact that I can do firmware updates. And that's one thing that Fuji crushes it with. They give you like a brand new camera and a firmware update.
Yeah.
That's what I want, man.
The XH1 came out and it had so many features. And then the XT2 people are like, damn, got to update. 2 weeks later, update. Almost all the
here's
everything
all of the
software, everything software based that could have been updated got updated.
Do it.
Yep.
And that to me, right? Like when I think about, that was the one thing that Canon did was they put the C-Log in the new R series versus having to pay for an upgrade on the older cameras. It's
Even
like
the 1DX doesn't have it.
Yeah, it's like, bro, let me just do a firmware update.
Yep.
No, technically, blah blah. No. Shut up, Magic Lantern. I know you can do it. Just give it to me.
Yep.
So to me, the future should be a phone-like device, right? That has this touchscreen. A touchscreen is a must.
Yeah.
That lets me install third-party apps or just apps designed by you. Let me choose what I want. Let me customize it in that sense. Let me apply presets directly here. Let me have a cellular or a Wi-Fi connection that's easy, that I can actually use to send that photo somewhere else.
I would equate, I'm hoping.
That's what I want.
I'm hoping that the Lightroom that they're talking about is like the Lightroom on your phone where it syncs
it looked
to the
just
laptop.
It looked just like Lightroom CC. Yeah.
Which syncs to the laptop and whatnot. Okay. Because
Lightroom CC, basically what you have on your phone now, looked like was on the back of that camera.
When I first saw it, I was like, that's cool.
Right.
It's a cool step for the future.
Right.
But it's almost gimmicky.
It's definitely gimmicky.
Yeah.
But I will say this is that, look, it's certain times it's going to be worth it. Certain times it's going to be amazing. And depending upon what you shoot.
Take a picture on my camera, send it to my phone, edit it, post.
Yep, you want to do that.
Yeah.
That now that extra step has been eliminated.
It's gone.
Which is again gimmicky, but kind of cool.
Kind of cool, yeah.
And that's the start of it. Hey, let's put Lightroom on here. Or let's now hire some, nobody, mom and pop that's like, hey, we're going to develop software for your cameras and it's going to be amazing because that's all we're going to do is make it for your camera.
Yep.
And the cameras are powerful enough. They can handle all that stuff. But that type of internal processing of images is what cameras are severely lacking. Like when I think about the HDR feature on a DSLR, it has to take 3 shots, it'll bracket them together, take a couple seconds, and it gives you this JPEG that looks like mush. It looks like garbage.
Yeah, that's so true.
When I think about the HDR that my iPhone can capture,
it's actually
fucking amazing,
it's
dude.
Great.
Dude, I was shooting a wedding. And I'm sitting there, and a guest took a picture of the bride and the groom walking down, and the sky was perfect. They were perfectly exposed. Color looked amazing. She posted it immediately. The bride posted it immediately because she could. And I'm sitting here with my DSLR, and I got a lot of dynamic range. I got this, but I can't do anything with it until I load it at home, process it, pull the highlights back, open up the shadows. They did this in a split second on their phone. Why can't my $4,000 camera do that? Why can't it do that? Because there's a stupid freaking mirror in the way, and they haven't created software that's designed. It's not modern enough, man.
That is so true, and
it's not there. It needs to be there. It's a computer.
There should just be a button. Hey, boom, HDR mode.
Just let me process it.
And iPhone does it so effortlessly.
It captures 3 shots in a split second, and then the new 10s and 10s Max have the smart HDR
instantly.
That does it even faster. That's capturing, I think, even more than 3. And it's processing all of that information, and then boom, here you go. Here's a perfectly exposed image.
Even they said it goes, it's so fast that you could do fast moving subjects with it.
That's awesome, right? The ghosting gone, dude. The processing, and it does that so fast. I mean, it's nuts. So to me, it's like that's where mirrorless. That's where I want it to be. Just like my phone is a little computer in my pocket, I want my professional camera
to be that.
To be a computer in my hand.
And now that you say it, it would be super. Imagine having like Dropbox on your phone.
Yeah.
Hooked up to your iPhone with the wireless.
Right. Let me connect my phone. Right. Let me connect my camera to my phone for my cellular connection, kind of like I do with my watch to my phone, right? Just how you would do that. Like, let me pair it to that so that now, on my camera, I can select a couple images and send it, and it'll just do it in the background while I keep shooting. How dope would that be?
That would be amazing.
For a client that's like, hey, we need these shots right now. Photojournalists, oh my God, amazing, right? So and again, not for every scenario. This is like wishful thinking, but like this is where things need to go. Yeah, backing up. I mean, right, you don't have your dual card slot? Cool. Let me upload it to the cloud, bro. Let me put it in the cloud because I want that second copy. But Fuji did something really cool where they came out with a small form factor. So currently, as I know it, there are 2. Right before these announcements, there were 2 medium format mirrorless. There was a Hasselblad and there was the Fuji.
Oh yeah, medium format. Yeah,
yep, mirrorless. Medium format mirrorless, right? Hasselblad and the Fuji, and they both, if I'm not mistaken, are not full medium format. They're slightly smaller. It's bigger than 35, but it's not quite.
It's 645.
Okay. So right, it's not 6.6.
It's not 6.6 and not.
But
6,
even
7.
6.45 is still.
It's a decent size.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then the rangefinder that they just came out with, I think, is even smaller than that.
And that really?
I
didn't
think
look
so.
into the mirrorless,
So Fuji came out with 2 new more mirrorless medium format. I forget the GFX 100, which is the 100 megapixel one.
The 100 megapixel one, which is pretty much and then the new one, what was it?
I forget.
R?
Maybe it's a 50. It's a 50 megapixel, the rangefinder style one.
Yeah, R.
It's the R. Okay.
GFR,
whatever,
50, whatever.
But that I think is a little bit smaller
yeah.
than the 645, or true medium format. But if it's bigger than 35, technically it's medium format.
Technically that's what they always say. It's
that's how you can define it. That's how you can mark
bigger
it.
than full frame.
Right. So
technically it's medium format, but it's a smaller medium format.
Right.
And ever since film, it's been like many medium formats.
Right.
Yeah.
There's different sizes. So with that, that to me is interesting because Fuji completely skipped full frame.
Yep.
Right. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the Lumix, the Panasonic full frames they came out with, right? So Fuji skipped full frame. They're like, no, we're just gonna go. We're doing crop and we're doing medium format.
There was an interview.
We're doing small and big, no medium.
I think it was on Petapixel. There was this interview and you could read it. It was a guy interviewing a Fuji rep or whatever, and he was pretty much saying that nowadays, as I was saying in the other video, nowadays the difference between full frame and crop sensor is so small that it would make almost no sense to do a full frame and go into this whole Canon versus Sony versus.
There isn't enough.
Because you never hear you almost never hear Fuji in the whole Sony versus
nope,
never.
They do their own thing.
They do their own thing, and the people that shoot Fuji know why they shoot Fuji.
Yep.
And
I'm not gonna lie, man. I saw that the XT3 come out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Yo, bro, that looks kind of interesting to me." And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, and not as a pro camera, but more as I want a family camera, like a personal, I want to have something always in my bag.
Yep.
Put a 35 on it, leave it on, and just that's it, right? Something that's way better than my phone, even though my phone's really good, but something that's just better, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to carry around my DSLR.
When it comes to straight out of camera picture, I feel like
there's that.
I feel like Fuji just
and even that, and so that's where that whole Zeiss announcement with the ability to shoot with on DSLRs, you've got 5 profiles. That's it.
Yeah, standard, vivid.
Why can't I freaking sit just like on my phone? Why can't I choose from a plethora? Why can't I create my own custom LUT, upload it to my DSLR, my $4,000 DSLR? Dude, I can upload a custom LUT. Have you, the app Polar? P-O-L-A-R-R?
No.
Dude, it's amazing. It's an amazing application on my phone. It does so many cool things. And I'm like, shit, why don't I have that in my camera?
And I know on the Lightroom app now, you could use the presets that you have on your Lightroom.
Yeah, they sync right over.
Yep.
You can create profiles, aka LUTs, right? You can create these profiles that now I choose. Here's 10 different versions of black and white. Not that I would use that. Maybe I'd use 2 or 3. But why? Let me have that, dude. Let me have.
I mean, you can. It's like a $4,000 camera.
Someone might be listening, and yes, you can make custom profiles, but there's only so many slots that you can have loaded into. Because I do have custom profiles on my camera.
There's only so much you could really do.
But let me have a menu system where I can pick and choose, and then that way see it in real time. Here's what your reds are going to look like. Here's what your greens are going to look like. Here's your shadow tone. Your all of that, man.
And you know what's funny too? I don't know for you guys, but on my camera, when I make a custom profile, if it's in RAW, it's all gone.
Oh yeah, it is. No, it's right. That's only for the JPEGs.
Yeah.
Yep. So the same is true.
But on Fuji, you have the different profiles, Velvia, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
When you shoot Velvia in Fuji, you scroll down, and on profiles on Lightroom, you could click,
Right. So it obviously burns it into the JPEG, but I can immediately apply it to my RAW file.
Yeah. So technically, a RAW file comes out looking the same. On my camera, if I make a custom profile, I could do standard and vivid and all of that. Right. But if I make a custom profile that actually has a creative look to it, it's gone after.
Well, with the new Lightroom, sorry, we're going off on a sidebar. With the new Lightroom, you can but you can't shoot it on your camera.
Yeah.
Never mind, I take it back. Yeah, you can't see, and that's my point. I want it on my camera.
Yep.
Let me put it on my camera.
And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, If I don't want to use it, I'm not going to use it.
No.
Just have it there,
but
though.
This is, and what's interesting, right, is, and someone else brought this up on another podcast I was listening to, was that they tend to put those things, quote unquote, gimmicky things in consumer cameras. Here are these fun things here's all these cool presets and all this stuff.
And
it's
on a $4,000 camera.
Right. You strip all that away, bro, give me all of that. Give me all of that. It's software.
Yeah.
It's software.
Yep.
On top of an amazing sensor, on top of stabilization, all these other things, give me that.
Yep.
I will definitely mention, so Lumix, Panasonic, right? They just came out with 2 full frame, following the same suit basically that Nikon did, right? Of like, here's a small megapixel, low light, and then here's a large megapixel, not so low light.
Studio, commercial, whatever.
Studio, commercial, right. So that was interesting that they're now doing full frame stabilization. They can do the double stabilization, right? In the lens and in the body.
Yep.
And then they also now have that. They're the ones with the partnership with Leica and Sigma.
Oh, Sigma, yeah.
So Sigma, Leica, and Panasonic have this. Oh, I forget what they called it. It sounded real prestigious too. The way it's like the lens, like the affinity. I don't want to call it the affinity. I forget what it is. They came out with this like grouping of these brands that are basically now going to push Leica bodies with Leica / Panasonic glass, and then also Sigma glass. So like all of these 3 brands are coming together.
Yep.
But Sigma also has a new body coming out, where they're going to have their foveal sensor in a larger style body, because they have cameras out now. No one shoots with those things. And even though the foveal sensors are like well beyond the technology that we have, the sensors that we're just so accustomed, the CMOS that we're so accustomed to, it's just more practical and blah, blah, blah. All these other reasons. Anyway, all of that stuff to me is really exciting, because like it seems like this Photokina was like, hey guys, here's a whole bunch of stuff. Here's a lot of new stuff. Not the same old, like this year was the year of progress. It's like
showing you what the future is going to be like.
Yes. Yes. So I'm super stoked. And I mean, I'm looking at those Panasonics. I'm like, damn, that's a compelling freaking body, man. Just the specs. I'm like, that's really interesting, especially for video.
It's crazy because it's funny. I see people like talking them down. Oh, you don't have the lenses, blah, blah, blah. And I look back and I'm like, this is the same thing that happened to Sony. And look now.
Yeah.
So at this point, any real contender, decent brand, Panasonic, they're not going anywhere. So
right.
You have to.
They've been around.
You have to kind of keep your eyes open for them, even though you might not even be thinking about switching to them now. But it's at least good to just look and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then in the future, as you say with the sensor, it might kick CMOS to the curb.
Dude, there's reasons why, right, CMOS has prevailed, because it's covered everything that we've needed, right? It's low light sensitivities, it's higher ISOs, like its size, like everything.
And now they're doing BSIs over CMOS sensors. Backside illuminated.
Oh, yes, right. So that, and again, now you got more room in there. Put more stuff in there. Get the mirror out. Put more stuff in there.
Yep.
Progress the technique, because there's only so many megapixels you can put on this thing before eventually it's just not good.
Exactly. To the point,
You put 100 megapixels on a full frame sensor, and I don't want it. I have no interest in that.
You can't shoot nothing over ISO 400.
50's pushing it, man.
Yeah.
50, I think, has pushed it. That's it.
That's the thing. I was watching this video, and it was like, if you realize all these 40 and higher megapixel cameras are backside illuminated, because if they were regular CMOS sensors, the grain,
it's garbage
at high ISO would be so shit.
Right.
And right now, I don't think they could go higher than 50.
I think that's the limit.
That's the limit.
This point.
And they're saying they're going to put crop sensor up to 30. Hell no.
That's even pushing it too. 24 seems to be like that sweet spot.
Yes, you could crop a little bit.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is this guy, I don't know if you know him, Angry Photographer, whatever. He's real.
Angry Millennial?
Angry
the podcast?
Photographer.
Oh, Angry Photographer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he says, well, it's not what he says.
Oh, wait, he's got a YouTube channel, right? Yeah, okay, I know who you're
It's that guy, and he said it's a fact that a 20 megapixel crop sensor is equivalent, when it comes to pixels per inch, 47 megapixel on a full frame.
Okay.
So technically, when it comes to cropping
and
having the same amount of pixels is the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
right. Your overall field of view.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, and I mean and as we were just talking
going
about,
higher than 24 would be like just a marketing thing.
You're pushing it, right? Yeah. You're making those sensors, or the photon buckets, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Too small.
Yep.
You're making them too small, and then you get all of the problems that come with that. Again, some of that stuff starts to go slightly beyond my knowledge. I can listen to people talk about it, but I won't be able to sit and talk about that. But I think we're now at this point where at least I hope, where it is, what can I do in software? Yeah. Computationally, what can I do with the processing of this data, right, to make it better? Yeah. But what can I do, especially, and that's, I think, where Sony's been crushing it with their sensors and the low light stuff, is how can I process this 12 megapixel sensor to be a low light freaking monster?
Yeah. And it's so crazy because now you say that was with the A7S2, the 12 megapixel. It was like, low light. And people are like, yeah, but it's shitting. I don't want 12 megapixel for photos. And then they come out with the A73, which has better low light than the 12 megapixel they have, which is a good standard for photo. And it's like, damn,
right?
What? And then you have these other brands that are just,
right.
And that's what pisses people off, I think.
Yeah, and I think
because I tell people all the time, it's like, I could shoot film and get decent photos if I want. And a lot of people could. And at one point, At one point, the Nikon D600 was the yes. Yeah. There were pictures on billboards from a D600. Yeah. There were pictures in magazines. And now you look at someone with D600 and you're like, you need a better camera to be a professional. Right. And it's so funny because 2 years ago, this was what you were using. That
was what you wanted. Yeah. It is an interesting thing. And that's where I think we talked about it already, is that the lenses hold more value than the bodies. And you can make good images with a body. And at this point, if a digital camera did nothing more than let me control a shutter, an ISO, and an aperture, I'm fine. Just like you said, film. That's basically a film camera, right? I have 3 settings. That's all I need. A box that captures light and puts it onto an image plane. Yep. Done. Now, we have all this other cool shit. Let me make my focusing better. Let me make my processing better. Let me make all these other things better. So why not?
That's what I was saying. It's like
you don't need it.
It's like exactly. That's why I feel like we get caught up in gear, like following things, and why we get mad at a brand. It's like, I know I don't need it to create good images, but why am I going to pay the same amount of money for this when this other brand is doing this and so much more? You know what I mean?
And I think where the trouble comes into is if you're a professional and you know the tools that you need, you know that the technology that you need to get your job done, all this other shit doesn't matter. I was making the point about like in-body stabilization. Landscape photographer doesn't need that.
Doesn't need it.
Don't need it. I don't care. 5 stops of, I don't care. I'm locked down on a tripod. It's stabilized. I've got sandbags on it. It's not going anywhere, dude. So things like that, that's not a selling point for someone like a landscape photographer. So it's interesting that, those people will be like, yeah, I don't need that. I need those 3 parameters. Give me those 3 parameters. Or they might say, hey, give me more processing. So now I can have like a neutral graduated density, like let me a variable, whatever it is. Graduated density filter. So now I can pull down my sky. Let me do my HDR processing. Polarizing filters. Let me have that built in. That's what's going to help me as a creator. So that type of stuff is what's interesting, is that these manufacturers have to appeal to so many people, and the majority that have a voice, I think, are these kind of prosumers that are like, I want everything. Yeah. And it's like, no, man. And that's where it's nice for me, as much as I love gear, it's nice that I know I can disconnect from that enough where, hey, the cameras that I have are getting my job done. There's a couple of things that, sure, I would like to have, but I can wait until these manufacturers kind of work out that stuff. I can wait until this mirrorless has become super mainstream, and then now it's affordable because it's not new anymore. Cool, I'll switch.
Buy it. Yep.
I'll switch over.
That's a good point, because a lot of people are going to jump into this and start talking shit about, why did I switch? I'm like, hey, And it's a good thing to never jump in on the first version.
No.
Never jump.
Don't be the early adopter.
Never jump in on the first version.
It's hard.
Like, wait.
Yeah.
Wait. In 2 years, you're going to have a couple lenses out. If you're a portrait photographer, you could go all native lenses maybe.
Yep.
And probably have 2 card slots if that's what you want.
Right. Yeah, I don't see people switching from one system to another because of the offerings from Canon and Nikon.
I don't know.
The Panasonic stuff, like if you had an older Panasonic GH4, GH5, I could see you potentially
definitely
going,
jumping,
ooh, full frame looks nice. If you had an XT2, maybe you might want to get an XT3.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? But even still, you might just be like, I'll hold on to my XT2.
If you don't shoot video, you probably won't even upgrade it.
There weren't things that you really needed from that.
Yeah, no.
That rangefinder, the Fuji rangefinder, though, I think people might scoop that up. Just because that's a $5,000 medium format.
Fuji shooters,
they'll get that.
Will definitely get it. My friend Travis says he's gonna get it because
get it. Yeah.
It's like, okay, as a Fuji shooter,
yeah,
and you have the XT2. What's next?
What's next? Not the XT3. I'm going to jump all the way over to this 50 megapixel. Yeah. So that I think and what's cool is that it's almost like Fuji was like, this camera's for us.
Yeah.
I don't care about anyone else. This is for Fuji. This is for us, guys. Look what we made for us.
We're not trying to drag anybody from Sony
to
here or from Canon to
And if they come, hey, welcome to the family.
Yep.
But otherwise, they were like, we made this for us.
Yep.
And I like that. That's cool. That's why, dude, that's why I was looking at it and I was like, shit, I kind of might want a Fuji now.
Yeah. It's
like, that seems like a cool
now
little
that you
camera.
Say that's so true because that camera is not going to pull anybody that's not from Fuji.
Not that one. The 100 megapixel.
Yeah.
That
definitely.
people that are
pull full medium format shooters.
Someone who's shooting a phase 1 system that's like, shit, dude, I don't have, because they just came out with a 150 megapixel camera. I don't have 40 grand for that. Oh, wait, your camera's only 10 grand?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What's up? So that is interesting. But then that little rangefinder, they're like, this we made for fun.
Yeah. Pretty much. They're like, yeah, we're going 5,000. Come on.
That's quote unquote affordable.
If you're not shooting sports or anything too fast, you're good.
No, I think that to me seemed more like it was a portrait.
Portrait.
Maybe you could even, I don't know.
Product photography.
Some product X that's high enough megapixel. You need to do the retouching. You want the detail, all that stuff. So
yeah, it's like it's a good entry level. It's like anyone looking to go into medium format looks to Fuji.
There you go. Yeah,
looks to Fuji. Hasselblad is all cool and all. Phase 1's all cool and all, but come on.
Yeah, no, that's a different category.
If you're not, even to this day, I'm still shocked that people shoot with those $40,000 camera. It's like, but you can't shoot sports with it.
No way, no way. No, I mean you could, but you got to know how to dial in that shot. You got to. There's no you're shooting 4 frames a second. If that. At ISO 800 is pushing it. So yeah, man. On that note, I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, same.
And I really like the fact that mirrorless is here now, and I just can't wait for it to continue to progress. And it's just, to me, again, it's all about the software now. What processing? Make it a computer.
Wait, do you think that DSLRs are gonna come back like how film is coming back?
Interesting.
Because people are saying, okay, it's gonna die down, then it's gonna become the retro thing.
It might, like the original, like 5D might.
Yeah, like it's gonna be like,
that might be
like how we have these
because old film. No, I don't. And I'll tell you why. So here's my thought about that. Right, like film to me, if I can create some sort of analogy, right? Film to me, the appreciation that people have film is similar to what they have for old muscle cars, old Italian sports cars, or even vinyl records, right? You don't see people buying a 98 Ford Taurus. They're not buying that car. Because it was a car that was in between this brand new 2018 Ford Fusion that's amazing and it's awesome, but like that 98, I don't care. Or cassettes. I'm not buying a cassette.
That's true.
What am I gonna do with a cassette? I want vinyl.
Buying a CD either.
No one's buying a CD, right? I want vinyl. Or I want digital.
It's either super new or
super old. Yeah. That's where I think the same thing with the digital DSLRs of today. Because right now, if I gave you like a D 30 or not even 3200, I don't even know what the older 2000 series or 1000 series or a Rebel You'd be like, what the fuck am I going to do with an 8 megapixel Rebel?
Yeah,
like this is
nobody's going to go back to the Rebel and say,
right. ISO 1600 was garbage on that thing. It's like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
But the AE1, ooh, I lust after that.
Yep.
And the brand new EOS R, I lust after. Like that is where I think it is. It's at the extremes.
Nothing in the middle.
That middle stuff is kind of meh. Maybe there's a couple here and there. Like the same people that buy like a DeLorean. A DeLorean is something that kind of fits in the middle.
Yeah.
But it's because it's so iconic and it's so cool.
Yeah. Like maybe a camera that came out on the 100th anniversary might be that.
Something like that. Yeah. Yes. But
all these in-betweens I see.
I don't think that they're going to, I don't think people are going to lust after that like they do old film.
Like if the D5 or the 1DX Mark II is like the last pro body DSLR, it might be one of those.
That will hold it. Yes. Yeah. That will hold some value. That will be like, this was the last DSLR they
before
made.
Before Mirrorless came out. Yeah.
I think that will do it, but everything else in between, no. So share with everyone what you shoot.
I shoot a Nikon D3200 and a Sony A7 II.
And I shoot on a Canon 5D4 and 5D3.
Nice.
So for those that are curious or interested, you might listen back and be like, oh yeah, okay, maybe that's why they were saying okay. But at the end of the day, just like I said in the beginning, gear doesn't matter, man.
It really doesn't.
Well, it's the pictures, the photos. What are you creating with that gear that matters? And what technology is in that gear that helps you create that?
Yep.
It's not just there to be there, but like what technology is helping you do your job. So Jolly, thanks for hanging out again, dude.
Yep.
We'll do this again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.